Hey guys, wanted to talk to you a little bit today about Esterbrook pens. If you're a fan of vintage pens, you probably started out with maybe an Esterbrook J, an LJ, maybe an M2, something like that. Esterbrook pens are how I learned, essentially cut my teeth on vintage pens and being able to replace sacks and replace nibs and buffing and polishing and learning how to get out some scratches in pens. That's what I enjoyed, and I got a good many of them. Matter of fact, here's a picture. This is not all of them. I've had more than this. Actually, I've given some away, and this picture isn't all that I've got left, but close enough. So, I really like the history behind it. I like the fact that they were an everyday, every man's pen that were manufactured right here in the good old US of A where I'm sitting. Of course, not in the same state, but anyway, I just enjoy the pens. So I was excited some years ago when the brand was being resurrected and it was being launched by a company trying to bring the brand back to life. And with the heritage of the Esterbrook name, I was kind of excited. And I had bought this particular pen here. I thought it was a little overpriced at the time. It was like 65 bucks. But, you know, it's a Charles Schulz commemorative pen. You know, the guy who did Peanuts, Snoopy. Well, he used to do his comic strip with an Esterbrook dip pen and bought a bunch of the nibs that went on a dip pen. So, you know, they're kind of cheating a little bit in making a fountain pen. So, but I like the size of this one. I like the girth of it. Went to go use it. It's got an iridium point, you know, an IPG nib on it. And this pen wrote like crap. I was really disappointed with it. And I thought about ordering some other Esterbrook pens, but I read a lot of reviews. A lot of other people found the same thing. It didn't matter what model it was when they came out with a new J model. Apparently a lot of other people thought they sucked too. So I have replaced the nib, the feed on this thing, and I still can't get it to write very well. So I don't know what the deal is with it. I was very disappointed, and I got excited again though when Kenro bought out the Esterbrook name and was going to revitalize the brand. I have been watching with interest, and I had actually was watching for a launch date when they were going to come out. I had planned on actually buying one because I like Esterbrook. And with Kenro, you know, they distribute like Montegrappa, Aurora, some of the upper end pens, some of the names that you associate with quality. So I was hoping that they would have a really well done pen. And then I saw the Esty come out. Now, I had communicated to Kenro. And by the way, Kenro, if you're watching, you guys promised me that you would have someone contact me so that we can see about you know, doing a review of your pen. I realize I'm not one of the big-time pen bloggers or YouTubers. But, you know, I've got a good many loyal followers, so every little bit would help. And quite honestly, if I had one of your pens in my hand and I really liked it, then I probably would have purchased it. But alas, that was not to be the case. I liked the idea the Esty was coming out until I saw the price, and then I started looking at 160 something, $200 for the size of the pen I want, plus another $80 for the nib or the section adapter to be able to use their old nibs, which is one of the things I love about Esterbrook's is they had the modular nibs. You just unscrew out the old, put in the new. All right, so a couple $100 plus another 80 plus, you know, shipping. I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm still interested, but not at that price point, just to see if I like it. There are other pens I will take the risk on, especially ones that I know have been proven. Like the Mont Blancs I just bought, like the Shinobi that I just got. I got some Visconti on the way, some others, a Parker that I had recently purchased. You know, those were worth taking the risk on. But I bought this one here. This is the Esterbrook Phaeton 300r. Phaeton is not one of the models that was really popular for Esterbrook back in the, 40s and 50s. And this was one of the first that they chose to launch as kind of a rebranding and a redoing the model that they had once had. So I don't know why they went with a Phaeton. I don't know if it's because there was some Chinese manufacturer that had pretty much copied one because they could turn around and make it pretty quick. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily cheap Chinese garbage like I have had some pens. Don't get me wrong, not all Chinese pens are garbage. Actually, there's some great Chinese pens that I've got here in my collection. So this one is not all that cheap feeling. It actually feels like it's halfway decent quality when you pick it up and you touch it. I actually wanted the blue. I didn't want the black, but when I went to go order the pen, the blue was sold out. And I didn't feel like waiting. I just said, fine, give me the black. I'll go with the black with a silver cap and the gold trim on it. You can see it says Esterbrook right there on the clip. And the Phaeton was retailing at $68. Now, that's close to what I paid for this one, $65 or so for this. I was reticent to pay $68 for something. I didn't know whether or not it would be decent quality. So, Kenro, I don't know if you're just contracting a Chinese or other manufacturer to do them for you. I don't know as though this is manufactured here in the U.S. I can't really tell. But I figured, let's give it a shot. I'll pay the $68 full retail. And if it hadn't come with a free bottle of ink from Goulet Pens at the time, I probably wouldn't have spent the $68. But when it comes with a full bottle of ink, I figured, what the heck, I'll go ahead and get the Monteverde ink. And that's what I put into this, was a Monteverde Midnight Black ink. So I got it. I inked it up. I'm the kind of guy, I get my pen, I gotta ink it up. I gotta have fun with it. I gotta play with it, touch it, feel it, see how it writes. Very few pens do I get where I just let it sit. And I've actually had a few I have let sit for like a year before I ever picked up and inked up. But if I'm ambitious and I get it and I'm excited about it and what's in the package, then I'll go ahead and do it. So I got the Phaeton, and couple things about it. What do I like? I like the length of it. I think that's a decent length for a fountain pen. I'll put up here in just a little bit all the statistics about the Phaeton, and I'll let you decide when you see that whether it's something that would fit your hand and whether it fits your fancy. I don't mind the silver top. I'm not usually a big lover of the idea of having one color for the barrel and having a different color up top, like snorkels. Snorkel pens, I've got one that's the same color. Well, that original color of the barrel did not originally match the color of the clip for the Admiral. And so the guy I bought it from had actually found a pastel blue that was identical for the cap, put them together, and I was quite happy with it. I thought it looked great. But, of course, when somebody saw the video, that's not the original cap. Okay, if it's not, then, I'm kind of glad, actually. I'm not a huge fan of having silver on a black barrel. To me, I kind of like the idea of the black barrel, but okay, this still looks okay. Mixing silver and gold trim, two-tone trim, okay, not a fan, but okay, this still looks acceptable. You got the black dome for the finial here on the cap, and on the bottom of the barrel, which feels more like an acrylic barrel. It's a fairly flat, almost like a little button insert kind of thing. It's the way it looks, but it's probably just the way it's cut. So, it is a slip cap. Pull it off very nicely, and it posts very nicely, very deeply, very securely. It's not coming off. It is a little on the slender side. However, it's not too slender. I don't particularly love very slender pens. However, this is one of those that's not too skinny. It's got a nice long section right here that works very well. And you've got the semi-hooded nib. And let me see if I can give you a better view of that. The semi-hooded nib. Which keeps the pen, nice and moist, or keeps it wet and doesn't dry out very easily. Let me show you the inside because it does screw off. And you can tell that I'm almost out of ink on this thing already. So hopefully I won't run out of ink when I'm doing my ink sample. That's the one thing I found out about this pen so far, is ink does evaporate on this pen, and I've used it quite a bit. So between the two, I am kind of running out of ink. But this is a plunger style, so you would plunge the pen down and then pull it back to suck up some ink. But as you can tell, I'm actually running really, really low on ink. But when it's full, it's actually got a fairly decent sized reservoir. So between evaporation and all the writing and use I've had of this particular pen, you know, I'm going to have to do refill more often than I would hope. So let me give you some statistics here in just a little bit, and then I'll come back with a writing sample, if I don't run out of ink. Okay, here I am back with the Esterbrook Phaeton, so let's give it a shot. In Esterbrook Phaeton, Phaeton 300r. This one has a medium nib. It is a semi-hooded, almost a full hood. And it actually writes very smoothly. That's one of the things I want. I don't care hooded, not hooded. I don't care vintage, modern. I don't care steel or gold, palladium, iridium point. I don't care as long as it performs good. If the nib sucks, the pen sucks as far as I'm concerned. If the pen writes well, whether it's expensive or whether it's inexpensive, if it writes well, then to me, it's a good pen. That's why a lot of the Chinese pens that I've got, I consider to be good pens, some not so much. I've got some expensive pens that I go, you know, I'm not so happy with. I've got some expensive pens where I went, now that's quality, and that's what I would expect, especially with the more expensive pens that I've got. Then I'm going, yeah, that's it, baby. Now this, at $68, it still probably is a little overpriced. This is probably maybe a $50 max pen. 40s to 50s, I would think, considering the construction materials. At 68, just because of the name, I bought it and just out of the curiosity. But what I will say is every time I've picked this pen up and written with it, it has done well. It has been smooth and it has not had a single skip. It has been reliable. Monteverde ink. Monteverde Midnight Black was the ink that I put in this thing. And it's a fairly decent writer. I mean, it puts down a good amount. Now, when you're using it on just plain old paper rather than on like my Rhodia dot pad here, it writes seemingly a little dry when I go to do that smudge. If you go to my Twitter account or you go to my Instagram, you'll see like my pen of the day, and you'll see that smear is nowhere near as wet as you would expect on a Rhodia pad, which is a little more glossy, a little more quality paper than your average photocopy paper, or it comes out of my printer. Then you'll know. But this pen, it writes fairly smoothly. Doesn't take hardly any effort to get some ink out of it, but you're not going to get a whole lot of line variation out of it. It's got just a tiny itty bitty little flex in it. I mean, you can see just a little bit of bounce and flex in the steel nib, but I didn't expect a whole lot of flex out of it anyway, especially with it being a semi-hooded nib in steel. But you get just a little bit, not really appreciable, not even really worth consideration if you're looking for anything with flex in it. But if you are looking for a steel nib, if you're looking for a pen that does write reliably, first time, every time, has a pretty good ink capacity, just beware, it will evaporate, and if you use it quite a bit, then you'll have to be refilling it right often because of, like I said, that evaporation factor combined with the amount that I've been using it. Because I know I haven't used it that much, to bring it from here all the way down to here. Yeah, I haven't used it quite that much, so it does evaporate some. But as far as in terms of it being comfortable, It's a decent pen. It's a good writing pen. In my opinion, just a hair overpriced. I don't know how well marketed the Phaeton is. It fits okay in the hand. Very lightweight when you're not using it in a capped or a posted. Posted, it still feels great. I like the balance just fine with it being posted. I like the length being posted in the hand, so I'm going to always probably write it with it posted as opposed to it being unposted. But, you know, I really enjoy Esterbrook. I like writing with the SDs that I've got. I really wouldn't mind getting the SD as well, but I'm still balking at that $200 price point for the large SD, and then another $80 for the adaptive section for it. Almost $300 just to try out in Esterbrook. I've heard some favorable reviews from those who have had it. I don't want the smaller version. I want the oversized, the larger version. I don't know. I'm just balking at that concept. Kenro, you know, I really wanted to touch it, feel it, and if I fell in love with it, would have bought it. But you know, you guys, just that did not happen the way I'd hoped it would happen. So, anyway, the Esterbrook Phaeton, you know, it's a nice, worthy pen. It's just probably a touch overpriced, but that's just my humble opinion on it, and I'll let you take your own decision on that. But overall, it's a good writing pen. I can't argue with that. I cannot argue with the quality of the manufacturing or the quality of the performance.